September 11th, 2001, a day no one will ever forget. We all know where we were. I'll never forget waking up to the sound of thunder, or what sounded, until I woke up and realized the truth as unthinkable events unfolded. I speak about it 20 years later with a very heavy heart, for I am both alarmed and heartbroken to look at where society has gone since then. In the days immediately followed,
remember when you're sad and feeling down. Remember, turn around. Love is only in a dream. Remember, life is never as it seems.
who could have imagined that 20 years later we would be this much more profoundly divided and polarized than was imaginable the days before or since that terrible event. Our leaders told us that we needed to build civil society in a place like the Middle East. Yet it would seem that we have not only failed to incorporate it there, but have lost it here at home. When 9/11 hit, I looked for answers. There was much I didn't know about myself at the time. I was still very much a young man, but immediately I thought to help out locally. I would ultimately decide to join the military, although that didn't work. It later made me think more of civil society. I devised my own program and taught children in Harlem. As the days moved, I learned more about what my calling was. But as I followed my vision, society seemed to only degenerate further. Since that time, this century has proven a century of crises, from financial meltdowns to superstorms to wars to most recently a pandemic. The days that I grew up, my heyday, was perhaps an excessively optimistic time when Western civilization believed that we won all the important battles. It was lauded as the end of history. Since then, we've seen much more challenging moments and experiences. Yet are we fit to deal with pain and challenge, to answer the deep existential questions that enable us the internal strength to persevere and to pull together? Sadly, it seems, as of currently, the answer is a painful no. So, where do we go from here? How do we truly rebuild as a civilization? I think we need to ask ourselves some very deep questions. Who are we? And the question we is vital, because there is no pulling through a challenging time without a clear sense of how we is defined. People must work together. And of course, there are many historic wounds that are faced, and technology and socioeconomic changes have sowed the seeds of a lot of confusion about what identity and belonging people have. So let's go over the basics. We have our identity as individuals, then as you pan out, family, neighbor, community, tribe, then nation, and then the notion of universal human experience. All these vie for our attention and our imagination, but we need to be able to define for ourselves what we relate to, what we identify with, in order to be able to have a unified effort. I say this treatise not as a personal lamentation, for I myself feel uniquely blessed. I've weathered so many of these storms, and indeed I've found my voice and touched the lives of particularly many young people, and for that I am forever grateful. But as I look out to the horizon, I'm deeply troubled by what I see. And I know in my heart that if the trajectory continues as it has been, if we are as much more divided and dysfunctional 20 years from now as we are now from 20 years ago, there will be no society left and life will become unbearable. We must find our internal grit. Consider for a moment how the people on the Titanic, how the musicians played nearer to thee, my God. As they knew they were doomed to a soon demise, they found it within themselves to resist the beastly temptation to scurry in the face of doom, but rather found an existential grace within themselves to, in the midst, we must consider moments like that, moments like the Blitz that the British experienced at the hands of the Nazis, where they were able to deepen their sense of selves and face unthinkable challenge. We are not finished with crises and troubles. There always have been and always will be at the individual and collective level. How do we find it as individuals and society within ourselves to be able to weather the storms? That is a deep and painful question we must ask ourselves 20 years later. Thank you.